I made a shocking discovery today when I was hanging out over at MEUK's Discord server.
Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Well, are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Are we gonna keep on fighting? Are we gonna keep on dividing? Well, did you hear what I said? It's all about...
But if you would have to scale it down to something like so, that would be reality, right? And then when you actually put all them on top of each other, all the way up to the top, you would get an accurate measurement over that distance. So this is showing magnification to me.
Wouldn't everything else be magnified?
Well, maybe that's the case.
Yeah, what do you reckon, George?
That's the case.
Then the scaling is right. If they're both magnified at the same amount.
No, you're not getting it right. This is the mechanical measurement. The mechanical measurement is definitive. The only thing that's not definitive is, firstly, the distance, but we can calculate the distance. We should be able to. And this board. So if we believe this guy that he is actually at 1.3 miles, then we're absolutely seeing magnification here.
Yeah, but Ranty,
it looks like the horizon's above his crosshairs.
Yeah, you're forgetting what the reason that George isn't answering the question, right, George? Is perspective compression a function of distance, George? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
He can hear you.
Because, like I'll say again, like George just said before, the Stadia hairs. Well, I don't know whether he actually knew that or he just parroted what I said because it sounds good and he thinks he must believe me. The Stadia hairs are there, a ratio of 1 to 100, right? There's no focus in a thing because the focal length of the eyepiece is a vital function between this because perspective compression is a function of distance. Right, George? You speak up anytime you want. Which would make the Stadia hairs...
I tried telling Blue that he would not concede it. He would not accept it. So I doubt George will either. But
yeah, it's hard because they've called it, what did they call it? Flurfspective, did they? I mean, they call it something like that, right?
And that would be calibrated, would it, Bev?
Oh yeah. It's within the manual. It's a function of the optics of the lens that these hairs get put in there, into the lens. I mean, I've look it up, Ranty. Put Stadia hairs, I think. Stadia. Yeah. Try Stadia hairs and have a look and see what it does, what it tells you.
Well, one thing I did look up was what is a double run in leveling. So it says in double leveling, a surveyor takes 2 foresights and 2 backsights.
Yeah, it's double rodding. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just reading what it says for double leveling. That's all. So it says this is what it says for double leveling. A surveyor takes 2 foresights and 2 backsights and makes sure the difference between the foresights and the difference between the backsights are equal, thereby reducing the amount of error. So that's what it says for double leveling.
Yeah, that was what I used as my straight line because it's a shared segment. That bit in the middle of where you double rod, when you take a foresight and a backsight, those 2 measurements stay the same, right? And the errors are obviously getting closer. But that bit in the middle is a shared straight segment, which goes to prove that it's a horizontal.
Too, right? Right, Bev? Shouldn't that help guarantee it's a tangent and you're not leapfrogging around?
There's no such thing as a tangent, is there?
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's just a horizontal. It's just a straight line.
Bev, can I just point out that he's run away? He's not going to answer that question.
No, well, that's how dangerous it is. Scary.
Yeah, George has run away from that one.
Okay,
he was speculating. Half the shit he was saying, he was speculating anyway. It was wrong. With the millimeter, the reason it's a millimeter accurate is because all the shots, if you go 100 meters or 250 feet, That's as far as you can see a damn millimeter. That's why it's a millimeter accurate. They got that instrument, calibrated on the dot, right, Bev? But when you're doing multiple shots, they say the margin of error averages up, up and down. So it's mathematically supposed to average itself out. But am I correct on that?
I don't know what you're saying, Brian.
The reason it's a millimeter accurate is because that's as far as you can go and still see a millimeter.
It's been calibrated to be horizontal, so it's up to you to only go as far as you can sight. Now, if you only go where you can sight to a millimeter, then that's how accurate it's going to be.
Perfect.
You asked what stadia hairs are used for. So stadia marks are also called stadia lines or stadia hairs, are hairs on the reticle of a theodolite or other surveying instrument that allows stadiometric range finding.
Perspective compression is a function of distance. Because those lines are there, you can like average, you tell how far somewhere is away. If you'd have watched us do any of the stuff of the last 2 weekends, you get to see what you can see through the things, and sort of how you mark these distances out. We've been out there and we've been measuring 33, 66, 99 meters, 100 meters, 160 meters, but we've never had a tape. So
range finding. So yeah. So that makes perfect sense to me then. I'm still gonna stick to my guns that I'm saying that board had to have been magnified. And I know that somebody else has been looking into,
Yeah, we are doing it as well, Ranty. I mean, like the idea is to go right, because the measurement, obviously, the hairs, the big measuring rods we've got, they go to 5 meters. So we can go effectively to like a kilometer away, hopefully. If you can get that 5 meters within the center to the top, then you could average that you were about a kilometre away. Now, it's going to be fun to see whether we can actually do that, because we need a kilometre, and then we need to be able to position that 5 metres in between the two hairs. I mean, it's all good fun, but it's stuff that we've got on in the plans, right? For what we're just messing about with this stuff. I mean, we are just using it and practically testing it. But like George has just run away, it just shows you that perspective compression is a function of distance, and it's in them things. So it must be a thing that happens. It can't be, do they call it flurfspective, if it's in every theodolite optical device that you have. You imagine when you've got a scope for shooting, a rifle scope, it's got those little marks in it. You can tell how big an object is once you're far enough away. If you can fit it in between those little hairs and it's an elk or something, you know what size it is, you can range find using those hairs. I mean, that's what they're there for.
That's interesting, yeah. So if you're a sniper and you see somebody in the distance, obviously you're trying to kill someone because you're a sniper, and you're just guessing, they're about 6 foot, so you can sort of range find, in that respect.
Yeah.
So that would help you to do that. You could just mathematically calculate within a couple of seconds how far away they are.
Yeah, once you've been doing it for long enough and you're a sniper or, like you're a shooter, that'll be natural. Like, you'll be able to range find, lift up once you've worked out how far away it is, and, adjust your sighting. I mean, that'll come natural. I'm sure it does. I mean, it does for people with shotgun, doesn't it? You know how to lead a target because you know how far away it is and all of that. That just comes natural.
It would be interesting, to find out if there's any manuals for snipering across water.
Just so everyone knows, hey, what's up? I was just talking to Khan on the other thing, so it's not his thing. It's something to do in here. It's like someone's either.
Sorry?
No, he's not muted. Nobody's.
He just left.
Oh, he's come
He
back.
No, I
dropped.
just talked to him. He said he couldn't hear anything in here.
Oh,
So I don't know. I was just gonna relay that to you.
Maybe he needs to.
He already did.
He needs to update Discord then, because that happened to me yesterday.
All right.
Restart.
I just wanted you to know because I wanted to hear the answer. So
Yeah, maybe restart. If you can tell him to restart.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
The audio's
There
back
you go.
now.
There he goes.
I've got the audio back. Hello.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you, George.
All right, I've got you.
So, perspective compression is a thing. Yes or no, George?
Pardon? Say what?
Perspective compression is a thing. Would you agree with that?
He's a function
I'm
of
not
distance.
sure what you mean by that. What do you mean by perspective compression?
Well, is it a function of distance?
Again, I have to understand what you mean by perspective compression. I've never heard that term before.
you know, I've got a thing. You know, Soundley's Bridge, and you know when they look down a pool cue, George.
Yeah, what about it?
Well, that's Mick West calls that perspective compression, and he says that magnifies a slight curve. Right, so perspective compression is looking down a thing and seeing that in the distance, that looking through the perspective of your perspective, in the distance, things compress. Now, that happens as a function of distance. Do you agree or not?
Again, I mean, when you have objects the same size spaced different distances from you, of course the objects in the distance appear to be smaller than the ones in the foreground. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And that is a known factor, that how far away they are, they will compress.
Well, I wouldn't call it compressed. They
Well,
just appear to be smaller. That's all.
That's why
They're
we
not
call it
compressing.
perspective compression, right? Because it only seems to compress as a
like I
function of
say,
perspective, right?
Well, if you want to call it that, I've never heard that term before, and I don't think it's a real term. But this is something like
Mick West
calling
would
it
be
a
awfully
superband or
upset.
whatever. But okay,
Don't believe
I mean,
that
it's just
atmosphere compresses objects in the distance.
objects in the distance appear to be smaller than those in the foreground for the same
saying-
size objects. I mean, that's perspective. Yeah.
Hey, hang on. Can you answer my question directly, though?
What's
Do you
your
believe-
question?
Do objects in the distance get compressed by atmosphere?
In certain atmospheric conditions,
Well,
yes. Things near water I have seen get compressed or expanded depending on your atmospheric conditions.
Thank you, George.
But the interesting thing that I've found in that when looking out at this channel marker that I use and this Home Island, which is at 6 miles away, and this channel marker that is at 3 miles away, typically when you have these types of effects occur in your water where you can have a compression or expansion of the image, as you go further up above the water, the less it becomes. And then when I'm looking at the tops of trees, they never seem to move. Whereas near the water, you can see things getting expanded or compressed. But again, as you view higher and higher up above the water, the less that effect takes place to the point where it might not occur at all.
If you have a
It's
look
a very
in the
non-linear effect.
have a look
It's
in
not
the
very
general chat there, George, and you'll see Mick West talking about perspective compression, just in case he comes after you, because you said it's not real. That Mick West
I
uses
did
it.
not say it's not real. I said I don't understand the terms. Jesus,
Okay.
Bev, I wish you would
Well,
quit
no, I'm
trying
just,
to twist
you
my
know,
words
that
all the time.
it is a
tried to help
used
you
thing.
clarify the term.
Hang on, George. You actually said it sounds like a made-up term. So you are
Yes,
saying
it is a
it's
made-up
not real.
term. It's not a
Made up,
standard term. That
made
doesn't
up by
mean it's
Mick
not real. I
West.
said perspective is in effect where you look at objects in space at different distances from you. If they're the same
You
size,
actually
the
called it a
objects in the
made-up
distance
term.
appear to be smaller than those in the foreground.
Yeah, like
If you want to
like
call
the
that
electrical
compression,
towers, George.
that's fine. But it's
So they
not
can
a
shrink
standard
and
term that
compress
anybody uses.
Apart from Mick West.
Yeah,
and
when
compress at the same time. Don't be disingenuous.
I'm not being disingenuous. I'm just saying you're using non-standard language.
Not us, Mick West.
You're saying you never heard of it, and then you're
Well,
defining
I
it.
don't care. I'm not.
That's disingenuous,
privy to a
bro.
lot
You're
of
saying
these
you never.
discussions. I don't sit and, beat this refraction stuff and these images to death. I never
no,
participate.
we're
in
not,
these sorts
George.
of
There's everybody here right now is learning about something that they didn't even know was a function of auto levels and theodolites, optical devices. Nobody had told them, George. Why's that?
Told them what?
What the
Like I said,
Stadia
I
hairs
haven't heard a lot of the
are
discussion
used
because
for.
I lost the audio on the Discord, so I haven't heard what you were talking about.
We were talking about the Stadia hairs on auto levels and theodolites and
Okay.
scopes
Yeah,
for range finding.
The Stadia hairs are used for getting a rough distance measurement
Right.
over short distances.
And that is
you can't use
because
it for long distance.
perspective compression is a function of distance, and it is figured into the optic device, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you never
Why,
told anybody that
term
before?
Compression really bothers me because it's not compression. Compression.
Yes, all right.
brings to
Mick
mind
West.
something
Go
where-
and tell Mick West.
where-
He termed the phrase, right, when looking at the electrical towers that soundly
coined
took a
that term.
picture of.
I disagree with the
When
term.
did he say this? How
Coined
long,
that
how
term.
long ago did he say this, Bev, that he called it perspective compression?
Oh, about a year ago, we were talking on
What
Twitter.
a twat. I'm
Yeah.
not being funny, but 2.5 years ago, I first started talking about compression, and it was a thing that I went on about on Nathan Oakley 1980s channel, and I was the first person to bring it out with a Stena-Line boat and talk about it, and I got ribbed to death, and they said that actually, no, it was the refraction curving around the bottom of the boat, and that's why you were seeing all these things. It wasn't compressing, it was refraction. And I was talking about perspective compression 2.5 years ago, and if he's only just brought this out, he didn't term that.
No, he did it. Like it was a long time ago on Twitter when Mick West had said that about, but he used the term to talk about the electrical towers on Lake Pontchartrain, like, and the way that they get smaller in the distance, right, George?
That's not compression. To
But
my
that is
mind.
exactly
No, listen,
what the
Bev,
Stadia
Bev.
hairs do on an
No,
optical
that's not
device. It
compression. Will
is.
you shut up a minute and let me just speak? You're always interrupting. Compression, in my mind, is a nonlinear effect. When you're looking at something in the distance, with what happens with perspective, it makes things smaller in proportion over the whole object. It's
Yeah.
it's a linear reduction. It's not a compression. Compression is a nonlinear sort of an effect, like you take a balloon. and
Okay,
you
so
can
let's
push it between
redefine
your
it,
hands,
George.
You're compressing it.
What
But
are we
if you
going to
take
call
that
it, George?
balloon Out in the will you shut up a
What are
minute?
we going to call it?
All you're doing, all I'm saying, it's perspective. It's a reduction in apparent size. It's not
Oh, Not
compression.
perspective,
Compression
then.
is nonlinear. I'm just objecting to the term. That's all, because
Well,
I'm not sure
take-
we're
take it
still
up with Mick
talking
West then.
about
Yeah.
the same thing.
I think it's quite a good one, right? Perspective compression. things get more compressed
No,
due
they
to
don't
perspective.
get
Yeah, to
compressed,
your
They get smaller.
Yeah,
They
but-
get smaller uniformly
as a
over the
function
whole
of
object.
okay, perspective smallering. How is that?
That's not correct, George. You know it. They also appear to get closer as they get smaller into distance. Compression perspective is what it's called.
No.
Of course you know this,
Everything
George.
in the distance looks uniformly smaller due to perspective. There's no compression going on.
And at a certain angle, they look closer together, right?
At a what?
At certain angles, such as bridge post or whatever, objects will appear to be closer together as they go off in the distance. That's the compressed part.
No. They
Yes.
get uniformly reduction in size. The ratio between distances and size remain uniform. They just get smaller. They're not compressed. Compressed means that the relative
made smaller.
distances between objects would be
To
changing
make
with
It's just
distance, and they don't.
semantics
All
here,
that
George.
happens is
Let's
the
get
relative-
back to the main point.
If you compress
sizes get
something, you
smaller.
make it smaller, George.
It's been known. You can put a ratio on this, can't you,
Fine,
George?
move on.
How far do you reckon it works for?
What works for?
This perspective compression
There's
Within-
no perspective
within-
compression.
within the stadia hairs. Then, you know. Do you reckon we could do it? You reckon we could when we go
Well, the thing with the stadia
listen
there
when
is the problem that you have is that the further you view out in distance, in order to get something fit between the stadia hairs, you have to have them spaced a great deal apart to be within the stadia hairs. That's why it's only useful at close-up distances. If you go out, say, a mile, to get something to feel between the stadia hairs, they're going to have to be over 500 feet apart in order to fit between the
what's
two
it with
stadia hairs at a
500?
mile.
What's
You're
your
not gonna get
500
it.
feet for, George?
Or 50 feet, 50 feet.
Right.
It's 100 to 1.
Yeah, brilliant. When
52 feet. You're going to have to see something 52 feet apart in order to
we
measure
work
a
with
mile
meters, we're on metric over here,
level.
George. Yeah. When Rumpus does his test, Ranty, are you going to come? Because we've got a plan. I mean, like I went there last year.
When
Right?
is it? When is it?
We don't. It won't happen, will it? But anyway.
Wait a minute. Let me hold on. Let me just finish. He's not even doing it at Bedford and the Bedford levels. He's not doing it there. He's found another location that has a similar distance. So.
He's not. He
Yeah.
just doesn't want us to go. But anyway, when we go there, there's like a bank between, because there's the old canal and the new canal. And when they built the new canal, they put they banked the rubble up, and there's like a long ridge that goes alongside the canal. Now there's no bridges in between those bits, and I think we can get this 3 miles ish. It may not be quite 3 miles, right? But that's along this bank. So we're planning to go down there and hopefully get 3 of us with the auto levels leveling a mile each. We should be able to do it in 20 minutes, half an hour, and get to the mile. So then we'll have rods in at the same level, right, with tags in or boards or whatever, and then we'll hopefully be able to get in a straight line, right? So we will know, because they will have been horizontal, because the auto level will have established them as horizontal. So if there is any optical effects that take place, we'll be able to hopefully see them as an optical.
Yeah, that's good. Listen, I want to test it over. I want to know what the effect is over water, though. That's another thing.
The
So I know
refraction, once you get too close to the water surface, there's that angle that you hit it at. There's all sorts of weird stuff. I mean, you know what happens when you hit that angle over water.
Well, I'd be interested to know if there's a calculation that can be measured to see if the magnification effect can be calculated too. Because if we can calculate some kind of magnification using those rangefinders with the crosshairs, then it would also explain that final part of the sunset, final part, that part that once you've used all the other filters and you've got rid of most of the glare from the sun, and we're left with just a tiny dot, is it just a tiny dot or is it a minuscule dot really, because it's being magnified?
That's awesome, man. I'll work on that, but it ain't gonna be easy. But I'll definitely work on that, Randy. That's right on, probably right on, man. We should be able to calculate it to a certain extent, or at least predict it to a certain extent, right?
Well, it's demonstrable in that video that I've just showed, because 1,800 feet is not 1.3 miles, so there's a 3.5 to 1 ratio discrepancy there. I mean, that board should have appeared in his auto level 3.5 times smaller than what it was to get the same distance. So that's why you were calculating you were getting a wrong calculation.
That's about what I see every time, man. Every time that I've looked far, it always seems, like I said, the crosshairs, like on a clear day, that's what I thought the perspective compression was, because on a clear day where you can see real far, the crosshairs are right on the horizon, basically. Because think about it. If you got your crosshairs set at 5 foot and you're a mile away, then you see about how high it'll be. And then 2 miles away, it's going to be even closer to the water because it's shrinking, right? So let's just say at 8 miles away, you're not trying to make measurements, obviously, but just looking through it to look at the horizon, 5 foot elevation and like, let's say 8 miles away is going to be a tiny little speck. So that's what, to me, perspective compression means also. But yeah, what Bev's saying, obviously, too, with it's compressing, and that's how you measure calculate the distance. And but yeah, I will work on that, Randy.
Hey, can I ask a question real quick?
Somebody just fed me a article from a photographer
Can you
that
guys hear
talks
me?
about compressed perspective.
Travis, yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on, George. Finish your point.
Okay. This isn't what any of us think it is, I don't. Compressed perspective has to do with when you're viewing objects in isolation, like cropping a photograph or something, is you can have objects seem, it's an illusion whereby objects might seem closer together than they really are, just because of the way that you crop or isolate an object in a image. It isn't the perspective effect that we were talking about, where objects get smaller with distance. That's not what this compression perspective is in regard to photography. It just has to do with like if you use telephoto lenses, and that is you can get objects that appear to be closer together than what they really are, just because of the way that they take up the image or are in isolation with the image.
That's fine, George, but we're not talking about photography, are we? We're talking about what we actually see.
Yeah, everybody else knows what we're talking about,
saying,
George.
to correctly use the term, that apparently is the term that is borrowed from
that applies
photography.
to photography. The definition you've just given is a term that applies to photography.
Through a lens. Yeah.
It was for, I will say it was thought to be lens compression, but it wasn't. It's a distance compression thing with perspective.
It's built into the focal length of the
it is
of the optics, right, George?
Distance. You're right. It is to do with photography.
Lens compression is a misnomer. It's just used in the trade.
To do with distance. And
Try again, George.
What?
Try again.
Try what?
Try and debunk perspective compression again. Because we're not talking about photography, are we?
I said initially I didn't understand what the term referred to. Well, you were using the term. Jesus Christ, you stupid SOB.
Oh, come on, George.
You keep twisting my words. I get
George, because you said you didn't know what it is, then you defined it 2 seconds later, man.
That's what they always do. They haven't got a fucking clue what's going on, and then they try and define what it is you're trying to tell them.
Who's this speaking?
What's it got to do with you, George?
Well, I want to know who I'm speaking to.
Well, you can see when my
No, I
avatar
can't. The
lights
lights
up.
are not. No, they are not lighting up for me.
No, you don't know how to use Discord, do you, George?
Oh yeah, you're such an ass.
Go on, George. Try another one.
Can I clear something up with George before we go too much further? It won't take but a second. He can answer yes in a very one sentence. George, when you were doing your George, when you were doing your observation over the frozen lake, were you trying to study the effects of refraction or prove Earth curve?
I already answered you that earlier, and I'll answer it to you once more.
Sure.
I said I initially started the investigations into refraction, and some people, when I was explaining, this was a few years ago, what I was doing, some people said, well, you know, could you measure the curve of the Earth using that? And I got to thinking about it, and I said, yeah, I probably could very easily. It wouldn't take much to change in my target range in order to do that. So then I accommodated them and set up targets to measure the Earth curvature, and then had a conversation with Jaron Campanella of Globebusters, and he wanted me to set up a set of lower targets for a Bedford level style test, and I also did that. So I had two sets of targets. I initially started with an investigation into refraction, and then, like I said, some wanted me to try to measure the curve of the Earth, and then also
tilt
with upper targets, and then Jaron Campanella wanted me to have a set of lower targets, which I also put up.
I've put in the general, Ranty, if you want to have a look at that, and George, you as well. It looks very geometrical, doesn't it? That Stadia hair thing, function.
Does that answer your question, Rakia?
Yes, thank you.
Do I have to explain it yet again?
If you want.
Go on, try. I didn't quite
understand?
understand.
And at the target range that I set up could be used to measure both refraction and curvature of the Earth. It was suitable for both sets of measurement.
Curvature? How do you measure curvature, George? We've been having a bit of a discussion on that. Because you're just measuring from point to point. How do you measure a curve like that? You tilt the best you could do, really.
Slope. Measure the drop distances from a tangent down to the surface of water. And that's how you can determine the shape, the nature of the Earth's surface. You can see what best fits the drop distances with distance from your observation point. If the Earth is flat, then all the drop distances should be the same. If the Earth is something other than flat, the drop distances will change with distance, and then what you do is you try to find the best fit for that sort of function that fits the drop distances with the drop heights from the targets to the surface of the water with distance out from observation.
Wow.
What do you think of my image that I've got up, guys?
You didn't say level or horizontal ones there.
Perspective compression in action.
What do you think, George?
What, Ranty?
Can you see my screen in the Discord? I'm just wondering if you just have an explanation for what
the live one. You want me to go on the live?
Yes, please.
I wanted to ask George, when they did the state surveys, like back in the day, and they did all these huge loops and close their loops. How did they distinguish between elevation drop and Earth curve? How could they distinguish that?
Well, wait. Well, it doesn't. First off, it doesn't say perspective compressive in that compression in that article that you gave. Can you give the article part of the article that it does say that? Because I'm not seeing it. And I want to know what.
So, Ranty, what do you want me to see?
Not you, George.
Oh, I'm just showing you. I'm showing you the same boat with the same camera, and it's giving you two different images. I'm just wondering if you can explain what's going on with the top image.
It looks very distorted. Looks like there's a lot of refraction of some sort. Looks like there's a lot of shimmering going on. It's hard to tell from a still photograph, but if you had a little bit of live video, I would imagine that the lettering on the side of the boat would be dancing around as well as the top of the boat. It just looks like there's a lot of shimmering.
I can see the red there though, Ranty. In that top picture, I can see the red. I can see all of the letters, pretty much. I can even see the white line on it. Right, yeah. George? So you can see all of the stuff there. It just looks squished. Or what should we call that, George?
We call that refractive compression near the waterline.
Refractive compression. Okay.
Not perspective compression then, George.
Well, it sounds like you guys are making this up, because there's not. Doesn't say anything about perspective in that article that you gave, Bev. At least not that I see. I'm not a very good reader, though.
That has nothing to do, Ranty, with what I just read in the photographer's description of what they call compressive perspective.
Look in the general
This
chat.
is totally this is a refractive effect going on. This has nothing to do with perspective compression. From what I just read.
Right,
It's not even a real word. It's not even a real phrase.
What about this one, guys? Can you see a different boat?
It's compressed up top too a little bit, but yeah, mainly at the bottom.
Perspective compression isn't real.
It's Mick West.
You just showed that. Is that the article you put in that thing? Because I don't see where it says.
It's not an article. It's a tweet that Mick West did. That said he used perspective compression.
Where is it? Can you show? Is that it right there? You're putting in right now? MUK? No, it's not it.
Yeah.
Just make it back again, please, so I can see the words perspective compression.
So what's the point of all this perspective compression?
You
or
see
whatever?
in the middle of that highlighted bit in that last post in the live stream text, it says perspective compression. The intent was to show how perspective compression magnifies a slight curve. And it's from Mick West.
How about this one? I think that's compressed as well. So are all these boats refracted compressed?
They also the same one that you gave me.
Do you think this could explain the wind turbines, George?
He said, Ranty, you're asking me about things I don't pay attention to. I have never participated in these analysis of wind turbine, Island of Man, that Blackpool or whatever. I just don't pay attention to that stuff because I disagree with all of you on both sides that you can determine whether or not the Earth is flat or curved from still photographs. I don't think you can do that.
Well, look at.
I just don't participate in these discussions because it's nonsense from my in my opinion. It's just
nonsense. So somebody else.
Your perspective,
Hold on,
perspective.
Hold on, guys. Right. So wind turbines. I've just shown you 4 examples of the bottom of the boats being compressed and the top of the boats retaining their angular size. So
yes, I see this out on the lake here all the time near sunset.
So hold on. So if we apply that same logic to a wind turbine and we compress the bottom part of the stem, because that's all you ever see is the stem, you can't really make any difference out between the white part of the stem and the white part above it. If we compress the bottom of the stem and retain the angular size of the blades at the top, you would get this kind of effect, and that's reduced by 50%. And if we look at the boats, for instance, we're getting at least 50% on the boats. This would
Well,
be
what's your
at
point?
67%. This would be at 80% compression. My question is that if we applied some logic into this about optics and observations over water, and we apply the same logic on the boats that's happening with the compression at the bottom of the boats and the top part of the boat retaining their angular size, then this may well explain these wind turbines that we see over water that appear to be paddling the water. Would you not agree there? That would be logical.
I agree.
Quite possibly, like I say, I'm not familiar with this wind turbines that you're talking about.
Well, any turbines really. You've seen the observations where we've got turbines.
Yes, these sorts of things can occur over water. I see it all the time, particularly near sunset when the temperature is dramatically changing as the air cools down, as the sun starts appearing near the horizon. You can feel it all out in the lake here, particularly this time of year where we have wild temperature swings from midday to nighttime. We can have our temperature changing now by as much as 15, 20 degrees centigrade. And when you can be out on out on my dock, and you can feel the air actually cooling down as the sun is getting lower on the horizon. And when I look out at the channel marker, I see even minute to minute dramatic effects near the water level on that channel marker. I can see things getting compressed. I can see them getting expanded.
Mick Wecht says there's no such thing as perspective compression. So what are you guys doing here?
Hang on.
I mean, he says right there in it, there's no such thing as perspective compression. And you guys are saying he does say it, there's such thing as perspective compression. Come on now. Do you think people are going to read down a little bit? Everyone just agreeing with it. Yeah, it says that. And I'm muted.
Man, ain't his name Mick Compress, or ain't his nickname Mick Perspective Compression West?
No, he says right in there's no such thing as perspective compression.
Where does he say that?
You were going for it, dude. You're agreeing with them when it's a lie
Where
right
does he say
Man,
that?
we call him Mick Perspective Compression West, man.
No, you guys are morons.
Where does he say there's no such thing as perspective compression?
Article, it says there's no such thing as perspective compression.
Why did he? Was that before or after he wrote the tweet?
What I'm seeing in these photographs, I would just attribute to compression that's occurring near the waterline due to refraction. I see this a lot.
So,
I mean, there's nothing new or nothing weird or earth-shaking about this. I mean, these things happen.
Not going over a curve then, George.
Here's the thing: if Stenoline wasn't written on the boat, you'd say it was dropping below the horizon. If you couldn't read Stenoline, y'all would all claim that it's dropping below the horizon, and in this picture shows that it's not.
No, that's not the same thing. No, that's not the same thing. I would never use a photograph like this to try to demonstrate something dropping below the horizon. It's just too much refraction.
Brenda would say, Brenda would say, "Where did the bottom of the boat go? Where'd the bottom of the boat go?"
She wouldn't use a single frame.
The best way, if you're going to present a still frame to try to assess thing, you should also have going along with it is at least 5 to 10 seconds of video to go along with it, because you can play all kinds of games with a still photograph by pulling out a particular frame. As objects are being distorted with shimmer in the atmosphere, you can always find a frame where something looks fairly stable and very well defined, but a second later it'll be totally distorted. And I find in shimmering, if you take about 10 seconds of video, you can very easily assess what's really going on. It's hard. It's very deceiving. It can be very deceiving looking at a still photograph.
I've got this on the video. I've got this on the video, George.
Yeah, but I can say Ranty, I can say just by looking at this, it's very, very obvious to me. There's a lot of shimmering going on in the background because of unstable atmosphere.
So we got refraction and shimmering now, and looming. Is shimmering a new one? Or is that like the is that the flamboyant refraction, shimmering? George, can you explain what shimmering is?
But, you know,
No, what is shimmering?
I'm just
What is
not
this?
going to
What are
get
you talking
involved
about?
with trying to analyze
Define
these
your
still
term.
photographs. I never have. I've resisted it for years, and I'm still not going to get involved with it because, again, my own opinion, it's nonsense trying to determine the shape of the Earth using these still photographs.
Yeah, why do you guys use ambiguous pictures like this? That you got, like, you don't even know what's going on in them. Why would you do
That's
that?
been his claim since the Black Swan.
Yeah, and you guys use the shitty photo on the Black Swan because the 4 days before it showed curve.
A picture's a
and 1 day
picture.
doesn't show curve. And it's the
Bro,
shittiest
it's
day
not
when it's
good
all
or
over.
bad.
It's a still shot of a video, dude.
Bro, it's the Earth you're looking at. You're saying what we look at is bad because it doesn't help you. That's not a good argument, dude.
Stop saying what people are thinking because you're never right.
That's what you said. It's a bad image. Okay, it's not
a
a
terrible
bad image. A bad image would be my finger in the lens camera, so it's blocking half of it. What
Or it
you're
would be
seeing is an
choosing the
effect
worst
that you
time
don't
to take a
like.
picture and use that as my evidence. That would
It's
be
not
a bad
the.
picture
What do you
too.
mean the worst time? What time should we take a picture? 7:56.
Well, I don't know. How about the 3 days before where it was
How
clear
about
and you could
any-
see the
this
curve?
But this is the problem. We're trying to establish that it's not your curve, it's visual effects, and we use visual effects. And every time we bring in a new one, you call it a quote bad picture. So you're just dismissing everything so you can try and lock onto curve.
Okay, so one thing,
man.
so
You gotta
hold on.
open your brain.
I've got listen, there was a claim. Hold on, there was a claim made there, right? Okay, so the claim that was just made was that the 3 days before there was curvature. Can you show me the video of the 3 days before showing the curvature?
On my phone, but yeah, I mean, everyone's seen it. I mean, they show it. The first 3 days were curvature, and you could see that the last one was dipped down. below
I've
the
never
surface.
seen it.
And if you
I'll
guys
say
don't-
everybody.
like bullshit.
I've never seen it. Never seen it.
Everybody's
seen
I'll tell you
the
why
footage.
nobody's seen it, because there's never been a video out there that he's put out 3 days before, 2 days before, or 1 day before that showed that. So that claim is a fallacious argument. But one thing I will say is that when he was called out to go and redo the observation, he was actually
Where's the link at?
he was actually called out.
Throw the link up there, the original.
I'll show you the video in a minute. So he was actually called out to go and redo the observation. He went down the next morning, filmed it, re-uploaded the video, and it's an actual better observation than the original Black Swan because it's a much clearer image without so much wonkiness going on. And you can actually see the horizon is way, way beyond those platforms. So he went on a day that he was called out to go and do it. He performed the observation, and it showed, as I said, the same as the original Black Swan. What do you say to that?
I have to see it. Because I saw 3 days that it showed curve. I saw 1 day that didn't. Then
No,
back, I didn't see that
I
one
know
that
what
showed
he's
curve.
on about.
Show it to me.
Ranty, if you remember, you and Rumpus calculated it, and the actual globe Earth came off worse.
Can I ask a question?
I have no idea.
It did. You and Rumpus went through. It was 1 foot observer height with a 2 foot wave, if you remember.
Oh yes.
And you managed to block 6 meters of the first one and 11 meters of the second one. Rumpus's calculations on the globe actually ended up with about 16 meters on that second one.
If it's a 2 foot wave, of course it's going to be. If you're 1 foot.
That's
off
what
the
was
ground, a 2 foot
recorded
wave,
there.
Of course it's going to be.
Yeah, that's right.
That was what was recorded there. I can show you the NOAA thing right now if you need that.
Yeah, I remember, because what happened is the Rumpus brought up that particular point, and I went and I actually got the weather data for that day with the swell data at that exact time, and I was able to calculate the swell height of the tide, so the amplitude of the wave, minus his observer height, to note that he was actually looking over a 1 foot wave in the foreground. So, yeah, that kind of debunks your claim there.
It's in the general. It's in the general there.
Sorry for that.
I've done all the calculations as well.
Somebody will
Things
give
in the
those
fore-
numbers to
things in the
people for
foreground.
life.
Things in the foreground that are, above your eye line will block out things in the distance. And Rumpus had to concede that. You think that we haven't already looked into these and analysed them in the past?
Oh, I
We
think
have.
there's been some fudging. I know there has been some fudging.
Well, to be honest, we have the Rumpus here,
We can
and
get down to
he's
the
one of
bottom of
your
this, though.
staunchest allies in this, and he had no other option but to concede the point that something in the foreground at that height would obstruct, even calculated it, how much would be obstructed. And what do you know? Matched up to the flat Earth, not the globe Earth.
Is that? Can I ask a question now?
Days before match globe Earth.
Of course, yeah, sure, fire away.
Is it Tony V that was talking and saying it's a bad picture?
Well, my mom said it's a globe, and she doesn't lie to me.
Did she tell you Santa exists and the Tooth Fairy and the
just
Easter
wanna know
Bunny?
if my dad.
What the Black
She said
Swan
Santa was my
argument
dad, so
even
she was
is?
truthful.
Can you recite the
And that
Black
Ross
Swan
Perot was
argument?
the Easter Bunny.
Okay, are you going to be disingenuous, or are you going to have a conversation here?
I wish Ross Perot was still here.
Okay, so are you retarded?
He was a good NASA shill.
That was a rhetorical question.
Tony V is obviously not here for a conversation.
No, sorry, I'm kind of doing something also, so I'm kind of in and out. Sorry, I do apologize for that.
More out than
I'll
in.
mute, I'll mute.
See you later.
Yourself on mute then. Bounce.
Okay, well, he came in to try and just, I don't know, just throw some curveball in there, and didn't really work because, unfortunately for him,
Black Swan argument.
When it comes to any of these observations that are in sort of like, conflict, then it's highly likely that we've already researched this, And as Gleam reminded me, I actually went in this with Rumpus at one point. So, you can discount what he just said about the 3 days before showing curvature because it didn't show curvature.
That's called cherry picking.
And it wasn't 3 days before. He has different observations up there many months before that he was picking up, not 3 days before. 3 days before.
Oh, speaking of Rumpus, he must have heard his name being called.
Yeah, it's like one leaves and another one comes in.
Maybe they're the
like
same dude.
It's like a carousel. One leaves, another one comes back in.
It's a tag team, isn't it, Ranty?
We'll find out about his test because we're all keen to go. Go and help.
It's the same person, different voices.
Well, he's not gonna. There's no test. He said he's doing it if it gets funding.
See him jump in the canal.
Come to me.
Good evening, Rumpus.
Hi, Gleam.
There we go. That's about right. How's the
Hope
test
you're
going?
well, sir.
And where is it being performed? It's not being performed at Bedford Levels, is it? So have you got?
I went around about 4 sites, and I was on the verge of giving up on the founds. I couldn't get a suitable site, but in the end, I found a site that was ideal, and I'm now. It should be going. I've had a couple of people who weren't able to do it quite as quickly as I wanted to, so I might be go back a couple of weeks, but it's more on than it was before. I was almost about a week ago, well, 3 or 4 days ago, 5 days ago, getting very fed up with lots of bridges and things in the way, but I've now found a site over which I've got a nice 6-mile run, and I can see everything, and I just need to get the equipment in place and everything, and get my posts and things sorted, and get the people in place, and the various bits of hardware, and mechanical bits and pieces, and lots of equipment and stuff. And it should be. I'm much happier now than I was 5 days ago.
6 miles, right?
Yeah, where is it, Rumpus?
It is in the Fens area. I'm not sure I want to say where it is.
Why not? We'd love to come along.
Yeah, we've got.
People can do these earthquakes, everything. They can disrupt the land. They can.
Well, I
send
might consider that. I
crazy
must
God.
admit, I was half thinking I might sell tickets to. You can look through the. Because I'll be going on. Yeah.
Are you
And then I
kidding?
would have to tell everybody where it was because I've got about 4.
It's a fucking zoo. Oops, sorry.
Because I'm going to have about 4 bits of equipment there, a lot of sort of telescope affair, an auto level, a spotoscope, and
let him finish. Go on.
a spotoscope, and what else is the other bit? So I've got about 4 bits of kit you can look through, as well as have a laptop and a computer and things there.
So you're going to tell us where it is? Come on.
Well, I think I'm going to
assist.
Well,
Rumpus, I might be jumping the gun here, mate, but welcome to Flat Earth.
You're an idiot. I don't know what you're talking about.
He'll never admit it, even if it works out that way, Brian.
Well, we want to assist Rumpus, and I think it's only fair that the Flat Earthers are given an option to come along and assist in this historic moment where
I heard he was going to jump in the canal.
Well, yeah, I will jump. Well, obviously, it also depends. I mean,
hold on. What's that noise?
What noise? Are you talking to me?
No, my bad again. Right, carry on, guys.
Yes. I mean, as I say, I'm considering making it public, where it's happening, and I'm thinking where I could make somehow take advantage of that or not. But yes, I would like. I would probably like other observers, and I've probably got about 5, possibly more people helping me on doing the bits and bobs, and possibly more that are going to come online. I've got about 5, 6 people online who have been narrating and providing presentations, as well as drone flyby and things, and also some 3D modelling.
Yeah, we can do that.
You see, and also with the actual observational side of things, I think it's probably going to be flat earthers that are more experienced with that. Maybe you should, with doing observations and camera work and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, but I'm not going to in any way put my observation in any way conditional on the competence of a flat earther. That's absolutely not going to happen.
So you're going to put it on the So you're going to put it on the competence of yourself, who's never used a camera before.
Well, I mean, you misunderstood what I said before. I've used cameras over many decades. You asked me about making movies.
Not Polaroids, though. We're not talking about Polaroid cameras.
Well, you see, there again, you're jumping to conclusions. You just don't know what I've been doing. I've used cameras over decades.
You got the flash bulb going over there?
How do you feel you managed to photograph the deflection of that magnetic field?
Put it like this. I am more competent than I suspect anybody else in here in photography.
With color photos, Robin?
Yeah.
Are you good with color photos?
And
what ISO setting do you think you'll be using?
Well, my digital camera will change it depending on the conditions automatically. I can set it to
auto.
Okay, so you've never used the camera with auto settings. Sometimes it doesn't even take the picture, Rumpus, because it's trying to set an auto setting.
You're not familiar.
If you've never used the camera, you're going to miss shots.
Only the pros use auto. Come on.
So you're not familiar.
Why are you just repeating moron?
Oh, come on, Rumpus.
You're not familiar. You're not
act like an adult.
You're a moron. Listen, moron. Learn something.
Rumpus.
Okay, yeah, only a moron is repeating himself over and over.
Listen and learn. You're not familiar, obviously, with certain cameras that can automatically change the ISO then. You're a bit out of touch, aren't you? You're a moron.
Randy, let me ask you, Randy, can I ask you a question? Have you ever used a camera and had it not take the picture in auto setting? I have a camera. It has an autofocus lens, right? Now, when you use the autofocus, okay, sometimes, and this is from somebody who's used autofocus lenses.
You don't know the difference between ISO and focus.
Bro, because what I'm telling you, this is the...
Rumpus, you don't know the difference between ISO and focus.
Okay, let me speak.
Why are you talking about focus when we were talking about ISO?
Okay, hang on.
Why are you talking about focus?
Why are you not letting me speak? Just stop talking for 2
Why are you answering my question? Why were you talking about focus when we were talking about ISO?
Okay, so what we're talking about is this
camera. You don't know what you're talking about,
okay, can you let me speak? Can you just
Are y'all gonna let this go on?
Shut up and let me speak. Fucking idiot, dude. This is why you shouldn't even let this moron on the fucking panel. There he goes. There he just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth, Rumpus.
Me when I was talking
you interrupted Rumpus.
Oh, come on.
This is what it's like,
Rumpus, for the love of fuck.
Because you're so rude, you need to be subject to the same treatment you found out. When I was speaking earlier, you interrupted me.
Okay, so get it over with so I can explain.
Treatment from me. So if you behave in a civilized fashion,
no, you're
then
not.
I'll behave
You're
in a
not.
civilized
What are you
fashion.
trying to
You
establish?
don't behave in a sensible, civilized fashion, and you
You're just
just
ruining
and
it.
then
Yeah, I don't
get
behave
your own.
Right. Okay.
So
Look,
you're
right,
just
listen.
screaming.
Settle down, guys. Right. Settle down.
Can I get this out? Let me get
Settle
this
down.
out without Rumpus.
Yeah. What's the question? Settle down. What's the question?
No, I'm explaining something to Rumpus, and he is getting triggered because he's a moron. When you haven't, okay, here he goes again. Here he goes again. There he goes, like a moron.
You're not saying
That's why he
anything.
can't even have an
You
adult conversation with a man who can't even. He never actually say anything.
No, you just walk
Right,
on.
how about you just try shutting
never
up,
actually
Rumpus?
say anything of any value.
Yeah, I
You
can't
can't
get
say
three
any value.
words out
Shut
without
up.
you talking.
Get on with it
I'm
then.
waiting for you to stop.
Get
I'm
on
waiting
with
for you
it.
to stop your
Get
blathering.
on with it. Crap.
Control yourself.
Get
and
on with it.
Control
Crap.
yourself.
Get
Control
on with it.
Rumpus,
Crap.
you can't control
Get
yourself.
on with it, you twat.
Control yourself. Oh, why
Get
can't
on
you
with
control
it, you
yourself?
twat.
Why? Rumpus, okay, now this is. Let's get into a psychological evaluation. Whoopi.
Try
You're
and
a
actually
spoiled
say
little brat.
something of value.
Okay,
Try
Rumpus,
and say
why
something
do
of
you not let
value
people
instead
talk?
of waffling and attacking.
No, I'm trying to talk and you don't shut your fucking mouth. There you go again. Shut your fucking mouth.
Get on with it then.
No, just shut up. I want you to. No, I'm not getting on until I hear your stupid mouth stop.
Right.
You have to
Holy
stop.
shit.
No, you have to stop talking.
Get on with it.
Oh,
No, not till you shut your
Get
mouth.
on with your point.
Shut your mouth and I'll get on with it.
Get on with your point
Learn
then.
to shut your mouth and I'll
Get
get on
on
with
with your point.
Learn to shut
he
your mouth.
ruins sound
Learn to
systems,
control
this
yourself.
dude.
Jesus Christ.
Rumpus, learn to control yourself.
Get on with your
Learn
point,
to
you
control
twat.
yourself.
Get
Where's
Learn
he
to
gone?
control yourself. Learn to control yourself.
Ranty, come on, man. This ain't funny.
I'm just
Rumpus,
turning
you're
Rumpus's volume
embarrassing
down.
yourself right now,
Yeah.
Rumpus. You're just embarrassing yourself. So stop talking. Stop talking
I
for
wanna
5
ask him a
seconds and I'll
question.
make my point. So stop talking. That's all I'm asking you. I'm just asking you to stop talking and you can't do it. No, you're not. You can't tell me you've stopped talking by saying
Just
you're
turn
talking.
his volume
You
down.
don't. Are you too
I am.
stupid
Oh my
to
God.
understand that
I've
if
turned
you're
his
saying
volume down
you
here
stop
anyway.
Yeah,
talking,
right
you're
the
not
hand, just
stopping.
turn his volume
No, okay,
down.
but you screaming, getting
Come
on
on,
with it
right
is
the
not.
hand.
I
Right the
can't.
hand.
I
Right,
can't
okay.
talk with him screaming.
Yeah,
I
just
can't
turn his
talk with him
volume
screaming.
down.
No, you didn't stop. You're telling me you've stopped, which is you talking.
No,
you're
just
still
go on
talking.
to user.
No, you're still talking.
Go on to
You have
Rumpus
stop
and
talking. You
turn him
have to
down.
Stop.
Right, listen.
Rumpus, you have to stop. Rumpus, I'm waiting for you to stop. I'm waiting for you to stop. There you go again. Waiting. I'm still waiting.
Right, this is. Listen,
I'm
guys.
just waiting
right,
for Rumpus
well,
to stop. This
right,
is why
okay.
Rumpus is pointless, Ranty. Ranty
Right.
is pointless.
Right.
It's pointless to have here.
Right.
Now,
Listen.
I'm trying to speak without
Right,
Rumpus
change
talking.
it.
Randy,
Right,
can I
listen,
ask a
change
question?
everything. Otherwise, I'm going to have to mute you both. So, come on, guys.
Bro, can I get it out without Rumpus? I'm trying to explain this auto thing, and Rumpus is just being an
Right,
illiterate.
Right, Rumpus.
Okay, I'm trying.
Right, you need to be quiet now, Rumpus. Just be quiet. Just
Good luck
be
with that
quiet,
one, eh?
Rumpus, just be quiet and let him explain it. Right, just keep your mouth shut. Right, go on.
So the camera, when you put it into autofocus, okay, they will start doing a whole bunch of
That
settings.
was Conway. Neil.
Oh my fucking George! Are you the ballers are
Yeah, of course
children?
they are.
You have to mute them. You cannot let them. They have to be muted. You have to just remove their toys. You can't let them play with them
Right.
because they'll do it always.
Finish your point.
So look, he's still going. I still have not been able to talk uninterrupted without a baller. I have something for George. and
George,
now
leave
Rumpus.
your dog alone, please.
Right, so they're both muted now. Right, go on.
So the camera will do a whole bunch of settings when it's not just changing the focus, okay? These more advanced cameras will change all of these settings to get the best possible picture. Now, I have one of these cameras that does this thing, and sometimes if it is too bright, it won't take the picture in autofocus mode. So you'll think you have this shot, you'll push the button, and it will just be in a adjustment limbo. So you won't get the shot. And if you've never used the camera and you have one chance to make this shot and this happens, you're going to be like, what the hell is going on? Why is it not taking the picture? So you should either switch to a manual lens, right, so you don't run into this problem, or maybe get out there and do some camera work.
Okay, that seems fair enough. It's good advice. You know, Rumpus asked for... Just let me finish, Rumpus. The Rumpus did say, and when he came on the show a couple of weeks ago, that he would welcome any and all criticism, and you could say anything you like to him. If it was criticizing what could go wrong with his observations, to tell him, right? So you've just been told what could go wrong with you just using the automatic settings on your camera.
Right, well, he prefixed this by saying I didn't know what I was talking about. So he started off with an attack on me about not being able to use a camera. And I pointed out to him that the ISO automatic thing is different from the auto-focusing. There are several things you can set on your camera. You can have it having auto-exposure, you can have it auto-ISO, and you can have it auto-focusing. And he seemed to think just because I don't know, he's just somehow autofocus. He thought that because I'd mentioned that the ISO was separate, that somehow I didn't know what I was talking about. He's just being an obnoxious, twat, basically. So I'm not.
It needs to be Rumpus, it needs to be manual.
Yeah, I'm saying sometimes it will get, when it's auto, even if it's just the ISO, sometimes it will not be able to get it perfect for the shot, right? Due to just the set, it's electronics, man. It's just electronics. And this is something I've learned using a camera, and now I use a manual. I use everything manual, and I set everything before, and then just click.
Yeah, because you're correcting what you're seeing, and you're manipulating what you wanna, the light and all the stuff.
So set everything up before. Set all your settings up before for the shot in manual, and then when you're ready, you just push the picture, and you don't have to worry about any of these auto settings, and you don't lose a shot.
Well, I've been to the location, and I've taken some shots with a camera, and I haven't had a problem. I've not. The lighting there is not particularly tricky, though. I was.
Could I see some of those pictures? Could you send me some of those pictures to look at, please?
I will show you one of the locations that I rejected.
No, some of the pictures that you took whilst you were there, whilst you were practicing on your camera.
Well, I was about to show you one. I could send you one. Okay, I could send you one of the location that I rejected, and which had a problem with the bridge. I may or may not send you one on the actual location, because you'll be able to find it, of course. But as I said,
you just said that you would welcome us to come along. Now you don't want us to know your location.
Yeah, I suppose so. Okay. I admit it. I am dithering over that. Well, you were suggesting helping. I think I probably will be happy for people to come along and look at what's going on, and even look through the telescope and the camera and the auto level, and see how things are done. I probably will be that. I haven't fully decided. I'm 90% of the way doing that.
Rumpus, can I ask you something? If you're truly interested on real science and real demonstration and true demonstration, why wouldn't you want flat earthers to be challenging you on any assertions that you may be doing on this demonstration?
That is a good point, and I would agree with it.
Okay, but you're going to agree with it and just still think about it.
Leave it there, yeah.
I'm 90% on the way to inviting people, flat earthers and things. 90%.
You should be 100% without any quibbles.
Flat earthers and things.
You're for science, remember, Rumpus? You are pro-science.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
You make a very good point, and it's one that's the same point I've made to myself. But I'm just trying to look at things. I like to think about things carefully and trying to think of any downsides to it. At the moment, I say I'm 90% of the way saying yes, I will invite any flat earther who wants to come along and then check all the things we're doing. Yes, I'm 90% there, but I'm just not 100% there. Okay?
Did you ever heard that saying? Did you ever heard that saying? Two heads sting better than one.
I just make a comparison as well, Rumpus. That Bev, with his test, has opened it up to everybody from day one. Has just invited everybody to come along, to come and make their own conclusions.
Because Bev knows he doesn't have anything to hide. That's
exactly.
why.
And you're shutting people out, Rumpus.
What's this 10%? What's this 10%? What's holding you back with this 10%? What's the reason?
Because he's scared of the result.
No. I want to know. No, I want to
he's
hear
worried
from,
something will be wrong.
Don't put words in his mouth. I want him to answer himself why he's dithering on this 10%.
I suppose I like to think about all possible aspects to a problem before I give it the Rumpus quality assurance. I'm just wondering if, because this will come with Rumpus quality assurance, this observation. And someone said about two heads are better than one. I've actually got about 10 people involved in this from various directions, sort of helping in different ways, very different ways. So there is more than just my head in it. And I just like to before I come to a decision, I just like to think of every single possible thing and whether or not it would be disruptive or not to have people there. I don't know. I mean, as I say, I'm 90.
Rumpus,
But you're
can I
gonna be
ask, if
missing
we
the
did a
flat.
test like that and didn't and acted like you and only had flat earthers come and look and tell your side our conclusions, would you accept that? No, you wouldn't.
Listen, when
So
I'm
you've got to don't do all this work.
Who's making that noise? Whose phone's
Not
that?
me.
Right. Okay. Listen. Whenever we've been told about doing these tests in the past, like Jeranism, when he's gone to do his observations and stuff, he's brought in globe earthers, and also it's the globe earthers that have turned around and said that whenever we're doing these tests, you should be inviting the globe earthers to come along. So well, if you agree, why is it now when you're setting up this, this test of your own, you want to kind of exclude flat earthers from coming?
I said I'm 90% there. I just want to just.
It shouldn't even be a thought. It shouldn't even be crossing your mind.
If you're for true science, you need the scrutiny of the flat earthers by your side.
If there's no flat earthers there, they can always say you like fudge the results.
Yeah.
So if you got a flat earther there and you
Yeah,
do
that was
prove
my
what you
point.
prove, now the flat earther confirms. They'll be like, yeah, I saw it too. But
Yeah,
if you see what you see,
I'll confirm it.
He hasn't.
You make a good point.
The truth.
You make a good point, Paige. Yes, I agree. I'm 90, more than 90% of the way to doing that. I'm just trying to think of any potential downsides. Just like with any project management, you think of all the possible things and all the possible things that might be not desirable. But
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that's not desirable, and that shall prove. Sorry, that shall Listen, stop interrupting, please.
Oh, sorry.
Right. So one of the downsides, obviously, would be that if you were to see what you didn't expect to see, in other words, if it didn't prove the globe, you said you were going to chuck yourself in the canal. So, if you only have globe earthers there, they might try and talk you out of it, whereas flat earthers would absolutely insist that you stuck to your word on that. So
if I get the live streaming working, then that wouldn't be an option because everybody could see it there and then. So that would be a problem. I think even I would be obliged if the live streaming stuff. If I get I may need a bit of funding to get the final bits and pieces to the telescope next part. Then I wouldn't really have much option, would I? I mean, it would matter what the globe earth is saying. The evidence would be seen by everybody live, and as the stick was only raised up by a few feet. I'll say, rather than say 15 or 20 feet, I'm going to have a problem with that because I'll be having a stream of that position. So there'll be a stream of people who are raising the target, and I'll be at the observation point observing it, and then it'll appear in my thing going up, or not up as the case may be. And if it doesn't get up to the horizontal of the crosshair in my auto level or the middle graticule, then or the graticule is yes, I only raise it up a little bit. And it hits the graticule on the auto level. Then it's going to be a live thing, so I won't really have much option.
did you see what I put out before about an auto level? I did at the start of the show. I actually discussed an observation that a globe earther did with an auto level.
I saw a bit of it. I saw a bit of it.
Now George has his issues with that as well, as do I, and in fact anybody that's used an auto level. People on the panel right now also saw the issue with it immediately, that it wasn't very accurate. So, and that's over just 1.3 miles. So how are you going to get around the fact that it might not be quite accurate over 6 miles?
Well, it will be accurate over 6 miles because the auto level I'm using is accurate. Was it 2 millimeters over 1 kilometer? So it'll only be out the accuracy because it's an angular accuracy. It'll only be out by
2 millimeters over a kilometer.
I think that's what the accuracy of the thing is. I think that's what the auto level is.
You got that on.
That's not right.
Yeah, you've got a bad one there, right?
You see what
you're saying
around to.
So was that George?
Typically,
that on paper.
a 1 arc second auto
Oh,
level
come on,
will give
George.
you 5 millimeter accuracy.
Stop interrupting George, Bev. I know you love to do that.
Not talking about
Sorry, George, I didn't hear that because Bev decided to just chip in while you were talking.
1 arc second auto level is a 4.8 millimeter accuracy in a kilometer.
4.8 millimeters. Okay, so you're saying on mine. You're saying it's not 2 millimeters then. Okay, well I thought I read on mine expected as 2 millimeters.
That take into account refraction?
No, right. That's a good point. Very good point. I will try and do that, and I've got the equations ready to actually allow for that. But yes, that is going to be the biggest problem. But it will only account, I think.
Are you not gonna? You're not going to set up a horizontal
Can
then?
you stop interrupting me in mid-sentence? I was nearly there.
I don't know. You've just accepted that you've got a 5 mil
finish my
over a
sentence,
kilometre.
And then you can talk.
Okay, just let him finish his point. Just let him finish his point.
Just
Rumpus.
Just let him finish his point. Just let him finish his point.
Over
What are we doing with all the shouting?
Over a distance of 6 miles, I think it's just a couple of feet refraction effect. Right, so whoever it was, Bev, what point were you trying to make while interrupting me? You said about the kilometre. You don't seem to like the 2 millimetres over a kilometre thing.
Well, George has just made it 5 millimetres, hasn't he?
Right, okay, so it's 2 or 5. I thought
Right, so,
mine was 2,
like,
but if
okay.
George says it's 5, then I'm prepared to... I think that might be... I thought it was 2 millimetres of mine, but perhaps George's is
Okay, well,
different.
if
You tell me, what's the accuracy of your kilometre then, Bev?
you let us know where it is, like I say,
Hold on,
we
what's
can...
the accuracy
We...
of your auto level over 1 kilometre?
Hey, Rumpus, something that's being missed here is in
hey,
6 miles and
so
1
what-
arc second.
Are you going to
One
let me
arc
finish
second
or not? Are you
double
just going to interrupt?
Not even going to let you start.
Yeah.
let alone finish.
So, Bev, what accuracy is your
What-
auto
right,
level?
so if...
They're talking to each other.
Yeah, I know.
So,
If,
Bev,
if,
what accuracy is your auto level over 1 kilometre? Tell us, if you don't like what I said. Oh my God, so he's just shut up now. He say talks when he shouldn't talk, and he doesn't talk when he should talk and answer a bloody question. A straight
Until he
question.
starts talking, Rumpus.
What a twat.
In
Right.
6 miles,
Uh,
the 1 arc
where are we
second
going
auto level
with
is
this?
accurate to within 1.8 inches, but the thing that keeps getting missed here is auto level errors go linearly with distance, whereas curvature of the Earth goes as the square of the distance. So at some point, the curve of the Earth will overtake the auto level inaccuracies.
Yeah. So okay, so it's only 1.5 inches. So there we go. So with that's with the 4.5 millimeters over 1 kilometer, is it, George?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So,
A 1 kilometer is 4.8 millimeter is 1 arc second. 1 arc second in 6 miles is 1.8 inches. You want to put it in millimeters and
okay. No, so there we go. So I thought mine was 2 millimeters over a kilometer, but I might be wrong. I thought it was. I've read. I mean, it must. This is 2 weeks ago I last looked at that. So,
And 6
I mean,
miles.
1 arc second. One arc second is 4.8
right.
micro.
Have a look in the general chat there now, right? There's the little booklet that comes in the auto level. Now, if you check what it says 1 millimeter over a 1 kilometer double run.
That is not the same as setting accuracy.
Right, so, but
Rumpus
that's
is
not the
talking
same as
about
what you've
what
just told
I
him.
am talking about. That's a different spec. There's 2
Right.
specs. There's
Yeah.
double run spec, and then there's a setting.
Right, can you just shut him up for a minute, Ranty, please? Because he's doing this again.
With what the angular setting
Yeah,
is.
you're talking
That is
shite,
one arc second
George.
that has-
Why do you do this?
Okay, George. Can you just allow Rumpus and Bev to
Alright,
get into this
alright.
just for a minute? So,
Right, so that 1 millimeter over a kilometer double run means that you can go all the way there and all the way back and you will be 1 millimeter out. Now you can keep doing that at half kilometer segments and keep going and you'd be 1 millimeter. That's the error because that's all you can read. That's an error, right? It's not a mistake or anything that doubles. It's just an error, right? Now, if you let us know where you're going to be and when we can go there, we can go and check that to a millimeter. So when you are actually looking out over that thing and you thinking George is giving you some numbers that you will be out, well, we'll be able to set a line that will let you know how close it is to a millimeter along that horizontal line, right?
you won't.
you're talking to people that listen. He's a
Rumpus, can I
surveyor.
answer that?
No, he's not. He's a twat. He's already, the fact. Hold on.
there,
Let's
George.
remember. This is the guy. Bev is the guy who thinks that if he goes along in 100-meter steps, he's not aware that the curvature of the Earth is less than the accuracy of his
Right,
auto.
let me
He's such
just-
an idiot. He
let me
doesn't
just
understand that
interrupt.
basic fact.
Let me
and
just
his
interrupt.
whole procedure
Hold
is
on,
utterly
Rumpus.
flawed.
Hold on, Rumpus. We've got Brian Leakey in the channel, in the discussion, And we've also got, as I say, we've got Bev here. And these guys use auto levels every day.
But he's an idiot. Bev is a complete idiot. He doesn't even understand.
Randy, again, I tried to point out earlier, Bev does not understand the double run spec. A run
double
does not
run,
mean
you
a run
moron.
in 1
Bev is
kilometer.
right.
A run in 1 kilometer does not mean you go out a kilometer and back. A run is the total length. You go out 500 meters, you come back 500 meters. That's a run of 1 kilometer. Double run means
that's called
you
a
go
loop,
out
George.
500 feet, back 500 feet, out again.
Meters,
You
George.
do it twice. A double run means you do the run
Right,
twice.
but it's a millimeter, George, right? It's within a millimeter.
You cannot shoot a kilometer within a millimeter because of the setting accuracy.
No, you
of the
don't shoot that far, George.
I
didn't
wrote
say that,
something up
George.
for you to
Hold
read,
up.
and you apparently
Hold up,
never
George.
read it
Hold up,
because
George.
the thing
Hold up,
is
George.
order.
George, hold up.
Andy,
George.
no, just a minute,
No,
just
listen,
real
George,
quick.
no, let me finish.
In order to
You're
verify,
misrepresenting what he said. That's why I'm interrupting you.
I'm trying
No,
to tell
you're
you, in
no,
order.
you're misrepresenting what he said. You didn't listen to what he said, did you?
Yes, I
He said
did.
He would, let me finish, George. He said that he would go along and he would set his auto level up and get a level a few hundred meters away or a few hundred feet away, so that from the bridge where he's going to do the observation, so that he's got a level around about 200 or 300 meters, so that then when the rumpus goes up, he can get his auto level set up, do it your way, just shoot it and see what happens. But he'll be able to validate it with his own auto level to see whether it matched up at the distance that was just a few hundred meters away.
Ranty, this moron called Bev doesn't understand that over his little idea of having 100 meters drop.
How many?
Hold on, let me finish. This is absolutely crucial. This is a guy.
Do you want to give up with
asking
the
us
ad
to believe-
homs?
We're asking to believe a
I
guy.
was
who
just
doesn't
about to say that. Can we stop with the starting with he's an idiot, he's a moron? Please, Rumpus. This is an adult discussion.
Yeah, Paige, when I explain this, you will understand that.
No, you won't. because
Okay,
we're not gonna
but
listen
explain
to
it
you.
without
listen,
the
guys,
moron
none of them are having any more tonight. I'm sorry, they can come back another day. This is ridiculous. You've got people on the panel that actually use these things, that are willing to go along and assist this test, assist it off their own back, turn up with equipment that can validate the claims made by the rumpus, and basically they don't even want to entertain the facts because the flat earthers, guys that use this equipment day in, day out, people that can go along and help out and assist, and you've got the rumpus that's probably never even used an auto level in his life telling people that this is how it's going to be done and this is how he's going to do it. And I think that's just so bad.
Ridiculous.
So bad.
They don't want it validating. That's the point.
I think
they don't want to practice.
I think at this
real
point,
science, right?
I'm pretty much over his observation as of now. I was really interested up till this point, but the fact that he's essentially trying to exclude flat earthers, having this 10% holding back, and also the fact that he now doesn't want to entertain anybody with actual experience of using these things and knows what they're doing. A skilled operator with this equipment doesn't want to have that person assisting is just retarded.
He told me he wants
because he doesn't
to stay
want
anonymous. He told me he wants to stay anonymous. That's why he doesn't want anybody there.
I'm just disappointed because, as I
Because
say,
it's not about the truth for them, Ranty. It's about proving their bias. So he's hoping that there'll be some, difference with how it looks rather than how it measures. So he can say, if he does do something slightly wrong and there's no one there to point it out, then he wins. He can just keep shouting globe proof.
See, here's the deal, yeah. I've had Rumpus on 2 or 3 times talking about this. I gave him a full hour to talk about his test, what he was going to do. We've had people interested, and he's basically shitting in the face of flat earthers right now. As I say, we've got Bev, who's willing to go along with the right equipment to assist, and he's just calling him a knobhead and an idiot and doesn't know what he's doing. This is a guy that, thinks he can do the observation after just only ever using a Polaroid camera. Thinks that auto on the camera is the best setting to use to try and do the observation.
If you were absolutely sure about the result of your observation, Ranty, wouldn't you be encouraging people to come? If you know absolutely that you live on a sphere and your result is going to show that, then like you'd be like Bev, you'd be going, yeah, anybody, come, have a look.
Yeah, of course you would.
What if you wanted to fake it?
Exactly.
Why do you think Bev's got his
Yeah,
arms
if you
open to
wanted
anybody
something
to come along?
To twist.
Well, do you know what I think we should do, guys? I think we should do a comparable one, and we're welcoming any Globe Earther to come along and assist us, and we will do exactly the same. We don't need the Rumpus for this. We can do it on our own.
Well, actually, I was the one sat in the dinghy maybe 16, 18 months ago. And there is, like I say, there's a bank right at the side of the old Bedford Canal, the 3 mile stretch that we were on anyway, that is okay for us to do, set out this straight line, right? Obviously, because we're after trying to set out a straight, level, horizontal line. And it's hard to find anywhere like that, right? That where you've got a straight bank that you will be able to do this within, I don't know, maybe 5 feet it may drop and raise up and down. But if we could put boards up or whatever over 3 miles and know that they are set at a horizontal, then you could get a P1000 at one end and try and sight down it from the other end, and you do both and, you know, check it. You could check and make sure. That's what we were hoping to do. Get up early when Rumpus was doing his test on the bridges. We could have got up there, done that, sorted all of that, sorted our little test out that we wanted to do, and then gone and checked with what Rumpus was doing. You know, see where he was filming on the bridges or whatever. I mean,
well, pretty much, I've pretty much wiped my hands of this now. I've given him every opportunity to promote his test. Was willing to go down and provide my own equipment, my own P1000, the drone. You bringing along your stuff as well, which I'm sure another flat earther's turning up to assist. What's the point now? The guy just doesn't want the help, and he just doesn't want.
We could still do it though.
He only wants. He only with the bias, I guess.
Oh dear, that sounded painful.
Yeah, you roboted there a little bit.
Yeah. I say we could still do it. I mean,
a little bit.
I'm pretty sure that we are still going to go and do this because it's something that we want to do. It's something that we have in our minds, right? That it's horizontal, but there appears to be some sort of a drop. Now, is it optical? What is it? We got to lay the horizontal out. So that's what we're sorting out first. Is level horizontal? That's what we're doing at the minute on the canal. Once we can sort out that level is horizontal, then we can do all sorts of other tests to find out what is actually happening and why things do tend to disappear on a horizontal.
It's like they don't want us to do this research, because every time we look into stuff, have you noticed? Every single time they get us to look into stuff, we look into it and we kind of come up with a very, very convincing argument against their arguments every single time. And this is just expanding on our already, our years of experience. This is all it's doing. And we're just, exploring the next level and the next level, what's going on. And they hate it.
They're stuck with the geometry because geometry does actually give you proofs. There's no way round it. You can't bend it. I mean, they can try and bend it with their fancy geometry that doesn't exist, right? And straight lines bending. I mean, that's where they're going with this argument very soon, because they can't have level being horizontal. It just doesn't fit their model.
But Bev, how if their level is like every step you take, your level sort of tilts a bit so that it's up and down from the centre of the earth instead of up and down like on a chessboard, how would we ever show them a straight line?
That's it. That's it.
So how do you ever measure curve if you can't set the horizontal to start with?
in their eyes,
they're going to
you
agree
can't tell.
that the horizontal. Yeah, they'll agree at the beginning, where you're standing at the very start, that level, they'll agree that's horizontal. But if you go 100 metres down, that level will be a little bit tilted. So I don't understand how we're ever able to show them this difference when we can't even set a horizontal line to measure it from.
The water level test. I mean, we've got this. There's so many of them that work together, and they are all geometric and logical proof that the water level is horizontal. It has to be. There's no curve. Like there's so many logical proofs that it's unbelievable. That, you know, like why people can't see it. It shocks me because it's just so clear.
Yeah, it blew me away when I actually thought about it and thought about what water level means and what they use water levels for and how simple it is. But we have to change what we were taught a water level is in primary school and now say that it starts to curve somehow.
Curves in the centre, but that's where a water level comes because it's just two tubes, one at each end. But they say it's only actually level in the middle. But there is no middle point, is there? Because you just got referencing the level from one end to the other.
One end to the other, yeah.
Yeah, they're stuck. It doesn't work logically, and it can't work. I mean, they can have as many pictures of balls as they want, but there's just no way you can have a horizontal water level or a curved water level. It's ridiculous. Because it is. It's just, I don't know. All of these people are scared to talk. That's why Rumpus and George are just concocting falsehoods about an accuracy of an auto level. Then
because it is so simple, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that the whole world has gone through life knowing fine well deep down what a water level is, but still not connecting that to what they live on.
Yeah.
You know, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to know we've been fooled that bloody easily. Like, wow.
Yeah. First of all, there's a little check that you have to do where you go, it's not just me, is it? You know, I mean, it can't.
It's not just me.
Yeah, but then you keep asking yourself, and then you find out there's these proofs on proofs on proofs that just keep showing you the same thing, and in order to keep the model, you just have to keep denying them somehow.
Yep.
And that's what these people do, George and all of them. They just give people a reason to believe, you know, oh, well, there's a chance. There's a chance if George is talking about something that he can't really do over a kilometre. It's like, well, you don't do it over a kilometre. You do it in like 100-metre segments. Little tiny, you know, smaller pieces where you can keep the accuracy. And just do it bit by bit.
I think Nathan Oakley went on Dome Life with Paul and Mitchell from Australia, and I don't think it's out for the public yet. It was only out for members. But they are talking about every globe proof, so-called proof, is begging the question. They, like, even with this observation, you know, are you taking refraction into account? Well, their refraction is begging the question. They assume they're on a sphere, you know, create this 7/6R, when they don't have the geometry to create that R in the first place. Exactly. So everything they do is begging the question. So keep your eyes out for this video coming out from Nathan, because it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to make the comparison there between the Rumpus, George, and Craig Fight the Flat Earth on Nathan's show on Friday. Just talking through everything, just rumpusing the arse out the conversation, just because
the Discord can't hear.
Points.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. They're scared of the points that are being made.
I mean, if you listen to Craig, if you listen to that conversation on Craig's channel, you cannot hear what Nathan is saying. You listen to it on Nathan's channel and you actually get to hear his rebuttals and what he's saying. But for all those guys that were sitting, you know, the 400 or 500 people or whatever it was sitting on Craig's channel, didn't get to hear anything Nathan said because of Craig's attitude. And that's exactly what he wanted.
Mm-hmm. I saw the video, Beb, of him talking about your kid. Man, it was enraging. Piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, that was he did that live, and then didn't give my lad any cause for, you know, like, to say anything. And he's not talking about him either. He's talking about his brother. And he's like, ooh. But I mean, that's what they're like, right? That is the length that Fight the Flat Earth has gone to stop having the conversation that I'm going to bring. I mean, he's generated this level horizontal geometry thing. He started it.
And you've taken it right to him, Bev.
Yep. He doesn't like where you've taken
hats
it.
Off. Hats off for putting up with his bullshit and taking it back to him.
They're
you're brilliant, Bev.
Now. They are cornered rats. They will go for anything.
Yeah, attack. Cornered animal always attacks.
Well, all we're down to now is actually doing tests and showing people. We're trying to get a camera set up so you'll be able to see better through the scope and hopefully see the readings better than we've been able to do so far. And we'll do it all live on Discord.
Have you guys noticed that they build models that cannot be falsifiable? Like every single one of them? Because whatever
no
you want to do,
scientifically check.
Whatever you want to do, babe, they're just gonna say, well, here's a parallel, and from the center to the earth, and that's level, and whatever you want to do, they just gonna, they're gonna input their sphere.
Yeah,
tell
but
you that
we start off with 100 meters, we go to a mile, and then we've got 27 miles of flat, level water to deal with.
It doesn't matter what observations you bring up, because they've got this catch-all thing called infinite over 6 R refraction, basically, and that just means that all they have to do is slide the refraction scale to make it match their model. So they can turn a globe into a flat infinite plane over 1,000 miles if they so wanted. If you had an observation at sea level that saw that.
Yeah, that's only optical observations though, Ranty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that only works for optics.
And how
you also have to point out they can't do that.
And how
they can't do that
doesn't
measurement.
Work for geometry.
How are you viewing it through an auto level?
Yeah, you double rod, Ranty.
Yeah, but you still have to view it. You still have to look through the auto level.
Yes.
And
that's what they say.
Yeah, but when you actually line all these up, let's say you get all your calculations done and you line them up, and you've got let's say you've done it over 6 miles. You've leveled every 100 meters down to 6 miles. You still have to then optically look through your camera to line them all up, see whether or not it's level or not.
No.
Ranty, is
no.
that why?
No, wrong, Ranty.
Okay, so how will you verify that they are all in a line and not curving?
Because they've been set horizontal.
Yeah, but you still have to go from the first one to the last one to look through the line, surely.
We've already done the first test that we did was the straight line test. Have you seen how that worked, or?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, surely you have to validate you have to validate that they're all in a line, surely.
I think that's why you put a third.
Not really,
a third one
Ranty.
checking the horizontal, right, Beb? That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they're horizontal. right?
Yeah, well, I understand what you're trying to do about trying to find whether water level's horizontal and stuff like that. You know, I mean, I understand that's your thing.
No, not water level, right? Level is horizontal. It doesn't
so
matter
level
whether
is
it's a water level, an optical level, a sight level, a laser level. They're all horizontal.
Yeah, but in order to validate it, you still need some optical proof that they're all in a straight line and not bending.
Why do we need optical proof, Frankie?
We did over
geometric
it was
proof.
the first test was over. We did 33, 66, and 99, right? And we cited them. We set it all up so they had the same thing. So as you're looking through, they all read the same number, right? Then you pick the level up, go to the other end, and cite it again, and put your level on these marks, and then look back, and all three of them read the same again.
Yeah, but my whole point is that they always say that refraction is a constant. Doesn't matter whether you're going over 2 feet or 20 feet or 50 feet or 100 feet, that refraction will always be a constant. So, you know, getting it lined up, they've still got an argument for it. They still will turn around and say that it's being loomed up, even though it's only over 50 feet.
No, this is geometry.
Yeah, but you still look through, you still measuring it by looking through.
Geometry outweighs optical, though.
Well, how do you,
Frankie.
yeah,
You can't
but you still need
bend.
to crosshair it. You crosshair it, so you're looking through an optical lens.
Yeah, but that crosshair is a horizontal level.
Yes,
That's what the
but
tool
if it-
does.
Yeah, but okay, well,
I know what you're saying, Randy, but the fact that it is horizontal is the proof. You know, you could look through it and have something happen optically, but that doesn't change what the level has set up.
Yeah. Have you seen the water level test that we've done?
I haven't, no.
Right, well, there's a way, right? So let's say over a mile, you've got a water level, just a tube of water. So the question would be, what happens in the middle? Because obviously it's got to be level at each end, otherwise the water would pour out, right? So you would say, logically, if you've got a mile water level, over a mile, and it's just a hose pipe that's a mile long with water filled up, right? That once the level at one end, you'd say the other level at the other end is, call it level if you want, call it horizontal. I'd call it horizontal. But the question then is, from the ballers, if that is horizontal, then there's got to be a rise in the middle. So how do you check that? Well, you put a level in the middle. You know, like tap it off in the middle, so you have a 3-pronged water level. But then how do you check that level with the other end to make sure it's the same level? Well, you just get another half-mile water level and put it up against that, and you'd then be able to check that the level at one end is level with the centre. It's the same level as the bit in the centre. Because that's the way...
I get your point now. Right, we've had a super chat from Cleary, who says, because he wants a soundbite apparently, level is horizontal. Dun, dun, dun. So, anyone else want to say that? Level is horizontal?
Level is horizontal.
Level is horizontal.
Yeah.
Level is horizontal.
Level is a straight line on a horizontal plane.
There you go. That's a good one.
Indeed.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Horizontal is level.
You had to do it the other way, didn't you? Horizontal is level.
I think they're punking us. They're getting us to use water to prove that water is horizontal.
But it's ironic.
Yeah.
It is so
on the
ironic.
ball, level is curved.
They're laughing at us. Look at these guys. They're going next to
Yeah, that's why I said to
canal.
Bev, I can't believe he even has to go and do the observation. Just saying what the observation is should be enough. People should go, holy shit, yeah, water's level, horizontal.
It's like spot on always kept saying, like, it. You keep saying it doesn't need to be done, but it does, doesn't it? Like, it needs to be done just to prove to yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to bring everybody along. I mean, like, it's such a good question, and it's such a good way to check. I mean, it definitely gives you an answer at the end of it that you'd be happy with. I can't understand. Well, I can understand why they're scared of it and why they don't want to come and talk about it. Obfuscate it as much as possible.
Because they hate flat Earth.
Runty,
Yo.
I think we've got it right in our faces, mate. Coventry Airport, they state, is 267 feet above sea level.
Right.
It's 100 miles to the nearest sea. How much curvature should there be in 100 miles?
Do you know that off the top of your head?
6,666 feet.
You do fantasy maths. It's not how it works. Elevation's just a horizontal, well, it's a vertical change, isn't it? In elevation.
Now, when I put this over, they said, oh, but level curves. So no, it don't. Level is a level plane. Coventry Airport is 100 miles from the nearest sea, and it's 267 feet above sea level. And if you take the curvature of the Earth as what they tell us, it should be over 6,500 feet above sea level. There's your proof.
I don't know if you guys were there when I did this, but I was talking to Zanuck, and I said, I'm standing at the Mississippi, looking not at the ocean, but looking back towards where the Mississippi's coming out. And obviously you're at the lower elevation because it's coming from the other northern part of the U.S. coming down to and emptying into the Gulf. Well, he says that has to flow over a curve, but it's a higher elevation at the back end or at the upper end of the Mississippi. I'm like, that does not make logical sense to me. You guys understand what I'm talking about?
Mm.
Yeah, it's the same as what I'm saying.
Right, so it's level but flowing over a curve. Yeah, right.
Are you saying that gravity is now pushing the water up and then pulling it down again? Or
that's
Yeah,
why
somehow water always flows
Sorry
from
about
higher elevation to lower elevation, but the curve doesn't seem to do anything to it.
Well, they say that gravity's pulling toward the center, but by their logic, the Great Salt Flats, or what do you want to say, the Bonneville Salt Flats, or any of the salt flats, they claim to have less than like 1 meter of fall and like a ridiculous distance. But there would have to be an actual bowl. If they say that if it's actually level, a flat plane, then it would have to be a bowl on a globe if it was to measure flat.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That hurts my head even thinking about it.
It's like the train line here in Australia that goes right the way across the country. I mean, train lines are made completely straight, level, flat. They're not curving at all. So they just put each section of track together. So where does this curve happen?
They say
Like what, every
till
time
they
they
reach the sea page, and then
Yeah,
they
so,
just dump
like,
all,
it looks
dump all
like
the
little-
curve in the sea.
push it all off the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny, man. But I think that I'm just coming to the conclusion. But I still want to do the test, my 3 mile survey test. It's like a sideways. What do you call it? What do you call the vision from like the side? Muppet vision. What's that called?
Muppet vision.
Orthographic.
Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do, Bev. If you're still there, I'm gonna line up 4 stakes along the shoreline, and from the top of the beach, I'm gonna just set them all up at like, let's say 2 feet, and I'm gonna set 4 of them up, and I'm gonna be about 100 foot up the beach. So I'm gonna have them spread out about 50 foot apart. So they're gonna be about 200 foot from one to the other, with 2 in the middle, basically. And then I'm gonna make sure they're straight, and then I'm gonna move my station down about 100 feet to the right, and I'm gonna pull the stake that's on the left and rotate it to the right. So there's always gonna be 3 stakes in the ground at all times, and every time I do a measurement, there will be 4 stakes in the ground. So they can't say that I'm shooting around a curve. It'd be impossible to do it that way. But I'm under the impression, man, the more I think about this, the more I see that light is what's curving, and not the earth. I think light is curving down.